Here we go. So just there we go. A little practice just to bring us all together, just to land. So we're allowing the sound of the bell to arrive. To meet us where we are. Noticing we're all sharing the hearing of the bell. So it joins us together. And of course, we're all bringing our own unique set of experiences, our unique range of emotions and thoughts and feelings into this moment. And just dropping any expectation of having to be a certain way. Dropping any need to achieve anything other than what we are now. And to put it another way, we can stop interfering with this moment. And we can breathe a few deeper breaths into the body. Feeling the body expand on the inhale. And then relaxing on the exhale. A nice deep breath and then just letting go of any unnecessary tension as we exhale. Allowing the body to sink into the ground or the seat a little bit more with each out breath. So we expand on the inhale and we're settling on the exhale. So I want to talk for a few minutes today about one of the sort of fundamentals of mindfulness is the arising of thoughts. And this is somewhat inspired by some stuff I've been listening to. Michael Singer has a really simple way of explaining what's going on. So the way he says it is the universe is unfolding as it is, and we're observing it. So this is the most simple aspect of what's happening. The universe is unfolding. We can trace all the causes of each event all the way back to the Big Bang, if we like. So this is all happening. Everything's happening in front of us. It's all unfolding, and we're simply here inside, looking out, observing what's happening. And there's no problems at this point until we introduce thinking. And the thoughts that say, I want this to happen, or I want that to happen, or I want the universe to unfold in this direction, or I don't want it to unfold in that direction. And of course, that's perfectly natural. It's perfectly natural for the mind to come up with these shoulds, shouldn'ts, wants, desires and aversions, cravings, ideas. I mean, this is creativity really in the mind. So we're not here to suppress this process of thinking. We're not here to abandon it completely, but it's a useful part of a mindfulness practice is to become more and more familiar with the difference between thinking about something and actually experiencing the thing itself. So mindfulness, the quote for this week's email is, mindfulness familiarizes us with the territory of existence, which is the present moment. It's this open, expansive, sort of boundless, timeless moment really, this sort of ever-present space that we're in. This is the only time and the only place we can ever be, is here and now. But we have this wonderful faculty of thinking which can give us the impression that things can happen in some other place or some other time than now. It's almost like our mind creates a future and believes that that's more real than the present moment. We might be familiar with this, sitting daydreaming about what's happening later on, or worrying perhaps about what's happening later on. So we enter relationship with a thought. The mind is producing lots of thoughts based on, the filter of our perceptions. This is our conditioning. Each of us bring a unique set of conditioned beliefs and ideas to this moment. So these act, there's someone else coming in there. These act as a filter to what's happening in the present moment. So we can all be sort of pulled into different directions depending on how our mind, how our thoughts are reacting to what's happening in front of us. And it sounds quite simple, but how convincing that can be sometimes, how convincing the mind's version of reality can be. It pulls our attention, our awareness, our consciousness. It can pull that into direct contact with the thoughts to the point that we don't even recognize that we're thinking. We almost feel like it's real. It's like we're watching a movie. When you sit down and watch a film, there'll become a point where you stop remembering that you're watching a film and you kind of become at one with the experience. And that's really why we do it, in a way, is to get lost in that experience. And that's almost what's happening with the mind. There's a a constant sort of background chatter. Some of it is conscious. We sometimes hear our thoughts. A lot of it might be out of consciousness, either subconscious or super consciousness, whatever. But there's inevitably always some form of chatter or description going on in the mind about what's happening. It's like, oh, this is happening, that's happening. Oh, I wish that hadn't happened. I wish this had happened. So we get involved in our own story. And it's easy to become identified with it, to personalize it, to make it, to believe that we are our thoughts. And what mindfulness can do is help us to see that there's something else here, as well as our thoughts. There's the observing witness that recognizes our thoughts. I'm sure for anyone who's sort of even meditated for more than a minute will recognize that the mind produces thoughts quite automatically, quite sort of automatic. It's unpredictable. There's sort of not often any real rhyme or reason. There can be thoughts that pop in from something that happened years ago, some just randomness to it, sense of randomness to the thinking. And then thoughts, obviously, they change as well. They change moment by moment. So if we observe the mind, we'll watch thoughts. They'll come up and they'll go away. They'll come up and they'll go away. However, sometimes the thoughts come up and we attach our consciousness or our awareness to it, and then we become the thought and we're thinking, and it's like getting lost in the movie again. And that's fine. That's going to happen. But there's something very profound and deeply liberating when we recognize that most of what we're struggling with in life is that process. It's the thoughts, believing the thoughts to be more real than what's happening now. It's the fact we don't know we've become attached to the thoughts and thinking. It's we want the thoughts to unfold, or we want the world to unfold in a different way. And the other part of this is how what we often do, certainly the automatic and intuitive thing to do, is if there's things going on in the world that we don't like, we try and change what's going on in the world to match how we want the world to unfold. And that's quite normal. We have our own sort of set of expectations to some degree of how we want things to happen, what I want to make me happy, what I don't want to make me unhappy. And in somewhere in there, we're creating our own rules about how we want the world to be. And then when it doesn't unfold in that way, we start trying to change the world instead of addressing the cause, which is how our thoughts are producing that, if that makes sense. So the analogy I have for this came to me this week, is it's like getting into your car and putting the air conditioning on, or whatever it is to change the temperature of the car, but pointing all the air conditioner outside the car. So we start trying to change the temperature of the world instead of trying to change the temperature of the car, which is what's going on within us. So because this is the bit we have a say in. As soon as we're aware that we're thinking a certain way, we can then start to choose whether we invest in that thought or not. And a good sort of question to ask in our day-to-day experience is, does this thought align with my values? Am I the kind of person that thinks these thoughts? Does it align with my identity? Does it align with my values? And sometimes that can be enough to help us to let go of an unhelpful thought, especially a worrisome thought, which tend to expand way beyond the reality of what they actually are. And if we're lost in that thought, it can be overwhelming, it can be distracting, it can be, uncomfortable. And if we're able to recognize that that's a thought, sometimes that will shrink and we can see it and we can watch it float on by identifying it and recognizing it. So during today's meditation, as I said in the email, we're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater today. We're not interested in the content of any thoughts for this practice, okay? Even though we know some thoughts are useful, some thoughts are more helpful than others, we're going to be quite brutal in our relinquishment of thinking today. So again, this practice isn't about not thinking. In fact, the more thoughts we can recognize, the more opportunities we have at noticing. And that's all we're going to do today in our meditation. Is we'll do the usual settling of the breath and grounding into the body, and then we're just going to observe what the mind does. So the mind's going to start producing thoughts. So as soon as we recognize that, we can say, okay, the mind is thinking about the shopping, it's thinking about my body, it's thinking about something, whatever it comes up with. We're all going to have our own thought experiences. The only thing we have to do, we don't have to try and achieve some kind of super state of awareness. We simply notice I'm thinking, and we'll come back to the breath, come back to the breathing body. And it's this practice of noticing a thought and returning to the body on the breath that strengthens our mindfulness and strengthens our awareness. The more times we train ourselves to come back, the more aware we become of thoughts. This is kind of how meditation works. We're strengthening our presence. We're strengthening our present moment awareness. Because when we're experiencing the breath, when we're feeling it, when we're hearing it, we're present. The breath is only happening in the present moment. We can think about the breath. We can start talking about the breath and say, oh, that one's short, that one's long, oh, that's not quite good enough, or what's going on with my breath, and now da-da-da. And that's the thinking side of things. But the actual direct experience of the breath is something that we can feel. Okay, so we're sensing the breath. And that's what we're going to come back to. Okay, so we'll start the meditation in a couple of minutes. I just want to pause again. I'll encourage us to find a posture that we find comfortable, one that allows our body to relax. So we shouldn't be putting too much effort into it. But we do want to acknowledge the fact that we are practicing awareness, we're practicing mindfulness. So we respect that by sort of keeping a little bit upright, maybe lifting the back of the head a touch and allowing the shoulders to relax down. And if we need to change our posture during the practice, if we need to make any adjustments, that's absolutely fine. Try to bring some awareness to our movements. So this is the intention of this practice, to simply be aware of thoughts as they arise, and we're then choosing to come back to the breath. Some thoughts we will catch as they arise. Other thoughts will pull us down the river of thinking, and we'll be lost in the story for some time before we even know that we're thinking. And that's all perfectly normal and okay. We simply relinquish identity or belief in that thought. We let it go, and we return our awareness to the breathing body. So again, joining together with the sound of the bell. All of us in our own way, in our own places, receiving the sound of the bell. Noticing the bell fade. And it leaves a silent space behind it. And it's the silent space that's here that connects us all together. So it's helpful at the beginning of the meditation to bring our attention, a bit like a torchlight, onto the area of our body where we feel breathing the most. So we may feel it coming in the nose or the mouth. We may feel it in the throat, in the chest, in the belly. And we do our best to rest our attention in this place. Noticing the constantly changing sensations of the breath. As we inhale and exhale. So there's a intention to keep our awareness with the breath. And there's an understanding that the mind often bounces off the breath into thinking. And that's not wrong. That's perfectly okay. It's a normal part of the practice. And it's the recognition of thinking is where we find awareness. That which notices the thoughts is not a thought. And thoughts in this sense can be anything from a mental image, a movie in the mind, might be just a conversation in our own heads, some sort of narration, some story, some sort of ripple of noise, whatever it is, a vibration in the mind, some sort of mental activity. And so this is happening, and whenever we are aware that we're thinking, whenever we're noticing that the mind is active, we're strengthening our awareness. We're present. Sometimes helpful at the beginning of the practice to deepen the breath, to exaggerate the inhale slightly, and then to soften and lengthen the exhale. This is our entryway into meditation. Some deeper, longer, slower breaths. Coming home to the felt sense of breathing. In each and every moment. Continuously coming back to the sensations of the breath. And letting the breath return to its own natural rhythm. There's no effort required to breathe. The body is perfectly capable of breathing itself. It's the job of us inside to simply sit with that experience and to pay attention to it, to pay attention to the texture of the breath, the rhythm of it. And we enter the body more deeply as we focus on the exhale. We're connecting with the sensations of the exhale, so the body relaxes as it lets go of the breath, and we can tune into that, noticing how the shoulders feel as we let go of the breath. Noticing the chest. Noticing the belly. Feeling the body. Feeling the weight of the feet on the ground. Feeling the weight of the legs and the backside on the seat. Just letting go of any unnecessary tension in the body, in the lower body, as we let go of the breath. Letting go of any tension in the upper body as we let go of the breath. Letting go of any tension in the arms and the hands. Softening. And letting go of any tension in the face, in the head. Allowing the body just to be as it is. It might be a nice opportunity to let go letting go of any controlling or restrictions within our emotional body. Sometimes we keep the lid on. Can we just soften and allow ourselves just to feel what's happening in this moment? Feel what's happening in the heart, in the belly. Meeting it with loving awareness. and letting go of any tension in the mind. Any restrictions, any judgments, any expectations, any resistance. And we come to rest in this space. Observing the breath, aware of the body, aware of the space that we're in. So the breath is at the center of our experience, but there is plenty of space here for the body and the sensations of the body to be here. Any emotions and thoughts to be here as well. And we notice as we sit with the breath and the body that from time to time the mind pulls us into thinking. And it's our awareness that notices that. So if we notice thoughts arising, we can also recognize that we are aware of thinking. And we choose to become aware of the breath, aware of the breathing body, until such time that we notice another thought. And we recognize that we are aware of the thought, and we bring our attention back home to this present moment, to this breath. to this space. Noticing this space is always, it's always here. So whatever thoughts are tempting our attention, whether they're profound, ridiculous, we pay them no more attention. Because no thought is as profound as our awareness of the thought. So we focus on that. And we focus on our awareness of the breath. The mind is a great storyteller. We just have to remember that the story is just part of our experience. Something very rich and alive here, regardless of our descriptions of it. Regardless of what the mind says about this moment. There's always awareness. And sometimes thoughts come laden with emotions, with deep experiences, and we need to bring some compassion. So we can end this practice with a hand on the chest or a hand on the belly. Giving ourselves permission to not be perfect. Giving ourselves permission to get lost in the story. Giving ourselves permission to come home. Giving ourselves permission to start again. To start again with every breath. And just gently bringing some more awareness back to the body, to this space. Bringing awareness to the fingers and toes. And very gently in our own time, starting to move the body. Just noticing the sensations as we bring the body back to life. And in our own time, opening the eyes, returning to the group.